Thank you, Yasser. Yes, we are indeed with international master John Donaldson, 14-time the team captain of the U.S. Olympic team, historian extraordinaire, and just simply a great guy. John, welcome to the show. Tell us a bit about what you're doing here in St. Louis right now.
Well, I'm going to give a talk tomorrow evening, and it's going to be on Bobby Fischer and Fischer-Spassky. It'll tie in with the exhibition that they're having right now at the World Chess Hall of Fame. And my theme of this talk will be Bobby and Boris, their similarities. And a lot of people, would immediately think, Boris being raised in the Soviet Union and Bobby being raised in the United States, that aside from chess, they really wouldn't have much in common. But in fact, there are quite a few similarities in their lives. And so I'll be discussing that. And the staff of the World Chess Hall of Fame, they've assembled a large number of interesting photos that will accompany the talk.
And that match was actually quite influential for your chess career as well. You started chess, you joined the chess club when the match started as well. Is that correct?
It is correct, yes. Christian, I became a member of the Tacoma Chess Club, and it's a city about 30 miles south of Seattle. And it's a city of 175,000 people. And when I walked through the doors of the Tacoma Chess Club in the fall of 1972, they had 200 members. And the club was open, like 7 days a week, and it was just hopping. And I think that I might have, continued to be a lifelong chess player if I hadn't gone to that club. But I do know that because I did go there, that it really got me off to a great start. And of course, one of the players that I quickly met up was Yasser, who was a little bit younger, but he's from Seattle, but we saw him off in Tacoma for tournaments.
Tell us about Yasser. Is he a good guy or not so much? I mean, I've been spending the last few months around him. I'm not sure about that answer.
Well, I can tell you this. I've known him now for just about 50 years, and I think that during that time, I've maybe seen him not smile 5 times.
That's pretty good. Yes, sir.
I remember, John, we played in the U.S. Junior Championships. And was it Walla Walla, Washington? We were on the east side, and you put my pillow in the freezer.
That was in the 1974 Washington State Junior closed. And besides Yasser, Eric Tangborn, a future international master, was playing. So by the Northwest standards, it was 2 future IMs and 1 world-class player. It was a pretty competitive tournament, and Yasser was already so much better than all of us. And well, to be fair, also in Wenatchee, Washington, it was maybe 100 degrees that day. That after he just killed 3 of us in a row, we decided we needed to cool him off. So while he was out swimming, we put all of his clothing in the freezer.
That is quite amazing.
What are friends for?
It didn't help.
It didn't cool him off.
Yeah, no.
Now, John, you've been the team captain for the U.S. Olympic team so many times. What's the most difficult part of that job? You're dealing with so many great players, so many egos as well in the team. What is the most difficult?
Well, I would say this. I would say that, obviously we've had different types of teams. We've had some teams where they were rated like this last time, and in 2018 and 16, where they're rated 1st or 2nd in the field. And then we've also had teams in the past that have been, rated like 8th or 9th, that were more evenly balanced. And I would say the main thing is that all the players, need to feel comfortable, that they need to feel that they're part of the team. And I would say that one thing I've been very fortunate is that we've never really had any players play in those 14 Olympiads that I've captained that have been problematic, that sort of put their individual results over the team. So it, for me, it's actually made it a pretty easy job. But sometimes there's certain challenges. I mean, this recent event in Chennai, obviously, we were really hoping for more than we achieved, and I've thought about that a lot the last couple months. Like every day, pretty much. And it definitely, the tournament was organized, as I'm sure all your viewers know, on relatively short notice. Originally it was going to be in Khanty-Mansisk, then it was going to be in Moscow, then the pandemic happened, and then it looked like after the invasion in Ukraine that there would be no Olympiad. And then the Indians offered to jump in with like 4 months to go, and it was just, this is something that normally takes a country a couple years to put together. I mean, there were close to 200 countries competing in this past Olympiad. And initially, it wasn't clear how it would work out. I mean, I know Brian Doyle, at the time he was handling the U.S. Chess Federation side, and it was very complicated. I think we found out at our hotel like 4 days before the Olympiad, and some of the players like Begum, she got her visa like 5 days before she left. Yep. So there's a lot of stress. But once we arrived in Chennai, the Indians were incredibly gracious, very generous hosts, and they did everything they could to make us comfortable. I'd say that the only two things that they couldn't control were the weather and COVID. And in the case of the weather, it was just really, really hot. I mean, it was like 90 degrees, which, all right, for St. Louis, that's not so bad. But
during the summer, yes.
but it seemed like I thought, St. Louis can get pretty humid, but this was like on another level. But of course, all teams, encountered this heat. It wasn't just our team that did. The other thing was COVID, and that was kind of a mixed bag because on the one hand, you have all these chess players that desperately want to come together and to play in the Olympiad, such a special event. But on the other hand, in India, they were having a pretty serious outbreak in the southern part of India, and just in general, Olympiads where players come from all over the world. Usually somewhere in the world it's like, flu season or what have you. And so the net result was that there were a fair number of players that were sick on our team.
That was a big challenge.
It was a big challenge. And this Olympiad, it definitely was. If you look at our lineups, pretty much the first half of the tournament, I thought it made sense, everybody gets one free day. But the second half of the tournament, for the most part, it was like who is healthy, because you only have one reserve player. And Levon, in particular, he was really, he couldn't play the last literally 2 rounds, and arguably he shouldn't have played before that. He wanted to play, he wanted to help the team, but he just was really, really sick.
Difficult moments in India, but let's talk about your talk that is happening on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, and we do have some highlights and some graphics for you. Tell us a bit about it, and what are the key takeaways for Tuesday, in fact?
Well, I would say that one thing that should be interesting for this lecture for even the most diehard Bobby Fischer fan is there'll be some photos that they won't have seen of him before. So I think that will be one thing that will be special. I think another thing that will be unique is there'll be a number of photos of Boris Spassky, especially from earlier in his career, that will be shown. And, in this match, the 72 match, Fischer usually always gets, front and center, and Spassky's kind of the gentleman, but he was the good loser, the whipping boy, but he behaved so nobly. But in this particular case, there will be also a lot of attention on Spassky, and I think that's only fair because he had an incredible run from like about 1964 to 1972, where he won the Arizona in 64, and he went through the candidates twice. He lost his first World Championship match by the narrowest of margins to Petrosian, and then managed to defeat him. So that will be brought up. And oh, by the way, I have to say this is one of my favorite parts about the current show in St. Louis. Those
the chairs.
Yeah, it's the furniture from Jack Collins' apartment, and it's, the real chairs that Bobby and Lombardi and Ray Weinstein, all those guys would sit on when they would play and analyze with Collins, and that's the actual chess pieces that they actually used. And today young players, they gain all their information playing on the internet and using chess engines. But for Bobby, his explosive growth occurred when he visited Collins for, the better part of like 6 hours every day for that time period, and just, you know, analyzed with him, played with him. People would wander into the apartment, you know, that were fellow chess players, and they'd look at the games they had played, and it was kind of a who's who of New York chess. And that kind of a total immersion was what really helped Bobby, you know, make that leap from, you know, like an expert to 2,600 FIDE candidate level player.
John, thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to it. I will be there tomorrow to watch the lecture. I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you very much for joining the show.
Thank you, John.
Thank you so
I will
much.
definitely be joining as well.
Me too, me too.
Yeah, it was
Even
really, really fun. By the way,
yes.